Hello Developer Week. I'm Andre, Head of Product here at PDFtron. In this session, we're going to talk about a whole new way to approach generating documents directly in the browser. Let's jump in. Okay, so during this session, we're going to talk about the use cases, the existing templates formats that people are used to using them today, some of the capabilities. We're going to compare the client-side versus server-side workflow for document generation. And we're going to do a little bit of a code along so you can just see how easy it is to go ahead and generate your own templates. Okay, so first let's talk about the use cases. When it comes to documents, the documents can be anything from contracts, being in legal space, real estate, or sales. It could be some reports that we need to generate for financial, sales, project management, or even for communication with taxpayers, or generating letters to be sent out through human resources. And we can also think about the personalized presentations or marketing presentation for any country or jurisdiction that they have to kind of cater for. Now, in terms of the data source, where it's coming from, the data can be pretty much anywhere. It could be in our SQL database, it could be in NoSQL source like MongoDB or others, or it could just reside directly on the Salesforce as a Salesforce record. Literally, the data can come from anywhere to kind of populate some of the templates. And now talking about the templates, when think about kind of the beginning or transitionary format that we want to kind of start off in, sometimes we go ahead and just generate them from HTML. So we'll go ahead, fetch the data, grab the HTML template, and dynamically generate the HTML. And then after that, HTML gets converted to the PDF. Now, the template creation and the updates still require development. Not everyone here, can just jump in and start writing HTML from scratch. And most often those updates or tweaks to the template would have to involve someone who knows the HTML. So it makes it a little bit less user-friendly. And when converting HTML to PDF, not always all the HTML elements that are present are actually supported or mapped out one-to-one inside of a PDF document. So there is going to be possibility that the look and feel of the original HTML template is actually going to look different from what we intended to be to the final generated report. Now, we can take PDF and go directly with the PDF format, and PDF can contain some of the placeholders information where the content can be replaced, and the templates can be updated through editing of the PDF. Now, if you note that it doesn't require a developer for this specific purpose, however, it does require some of the expensive software for the PDF editing, desktop application. The PDF has always been kind of designed more of a fixed format rather than reflowable content. So then what's going to happen is that there could be some content collisions when we're replacing the template. And again, it's going to lead to not be as precise as we want to. And now the last or the best option, in my opinion, is just kind of starting with the DOCX template. Now, the DOCX template, it doesn't have to be DOCX as well. It could be a PowerPoint presentation or an Excel spreadsheet. It can actually be edited and modified and updated by pretty much anyone. And it can be done so in any word processor, whether we use Google Docs, Microsoft Office Online, or other YCYJ editors. As long as we can get a DocX or XLSX or PPTX file, we can use that as our template. Now, we can then kind of grab any of the placeholder data and just go ahead and replace them with the actual data that we fetched from our database, from our Salesforce records, and so on. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the different capabilities that we have supported here at PDFtron with DocX template generation or Word or Office generation. So we support a complete reflow. And what I mean by reflow is that the content will automatically resize and push other content down and kind of work itself in by simply, it doesn't matter if your content that you're placing in the placeholder is larger or smaller, the content is just going to automatically scale and reflow within your document. And during that, it also preserves all of your styles. So especially when working more with presentations or specific documents that need to look exactly the look and feel that we're intending to, it's important that whatever kind of placeholder style that we place with a squiggly or mustache brackets, it will go ahead and preserve it. As you can see here in this diagram, we simply grab kind of the placeholder, we grab the JSON as the data format that will accept data in, and we'll preserve the style and just replace whatever it may be. It could be text, it could be images, it could be tables, it could be figures, you name it. So we support also dynamic tables. This is important for invoicing, contracts, or any kind of line items that we want to include. And the tables can be dynamic. We don't care about the number of rows that are present if it overflows to the next page. And I will show you kind of in the demo portion of this. We will kind of go through and kind of take a look at how we'll reflow to the next page, as well as support for images. So it's important maybe to place a logo or specific branding of our product onto our templates or any communication going out. Now, let's talk about kind of the traditional way we would approach or think about document generation in the first place. So usually, when we're thinking about the document generation process, we think of it as a complex, nightly batch job that's going to be running on our server, and it will query the data, it will merge them in the templates, it will then kind of send it out or move it to the next step. And this whole process kind of takes maybe 6 hours, maybe 3 hours, depending on the volume and how many documents you need to generate. And the example I like to use here is, for example, a banking application. Let's say we want to go ahead and generate from our checkings account. We want to generate all the transactions that happen, month over month. So we select the date range that we want to see the report, and we go ahead and request it. So the user requests it, and then what's going to happen is that data fetching will happen, and then the request will hit the server. The data is going to be fetched. We're going to go ahead and merge the template, and then after that, we're going to send back the PDF. Now, there's a couple of drawbacks to this, right? And on the next slide, I'm actually going to cover them. And then on the client side, it looks very similar. User request, data fetching, template merging, and serving PDF, except it all happens directly in the browser. So, and the step number 2 for data fetching, well, the user is already looking at the screen, so the data fetching already happened once. So all we got to do is just grab the data that are already being fetched without making any additional server calls or putting any resources on the server, and we can just create the PDF on the fly. So let's take a look here. So with the server, there's an issue of scalability. So the more users we have accessing our application or software or requesting those contracts, the more we have to worry about availability. So for example, for my bank, to make a report, it takes about 1 to 2 minutes, depending on when I'm trying to access it. Now you can imagine that it's not the best user experience having your user to kind of sit around and wait for 1 to 2 minutes in front of the screen to wait for that report generated, especially if the data is already in front of them and they just want a different format to get it presented to them. Then there's also another aspect of it, of data security. And I'm not saying that using servers is less secure, except it just introduces kind of more steps along the way. For example, the user request has to go, the data fetching might need to happen to separate databases, then it needs to be merged into the document, and then new PDF gets generated and sent back to the user. There's more steps for it to kind of go wrong or possibly weaken our overall system of security, where if it just happens on the client-side user machine, then it's way simpler, and simpler is more secure and more robust. Now, when it comes to cost as well, running, and especially if we're running kind of auto-scaling group, where we add more servers as we have more users, well, it just costs us to provide even better user experience. Where if we're just using and outsourcing all of the work to the browser, to the client side, to the user, well, we're not paying for any additional user machines, and we're still providing even better user experience than we would with the server. Okay, so now let's actually go ahead and take a look at a quick demo that I put together to kind of showcase you how this works. Okay, perfect. Now let's take a look at how easy we can go ahead about generating a contract. In this case, it's an invoice, sales quote that we just went ahead and typed up inside of Google Docs. Now inside of here, I have a couple placeholders with different styles like company names, addresses, and I also have a table. And as you can see for the table, all I gotta do is just punch in build items, and it doesn't really matter how many columns that we have. And then we're gonna be placing a total right here. We also have kind of some of the continuing placeholders that we gotta replace. And at the end of it, it needs to be agreed and accepted. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and use a React sample just to demonstrate to you what's going on here in code. So I pre-typed some of the JSON data. Of course, this JSON data would probably come from fetching from a database or somewhere, or if we already have that information on the front end, we can go ahead and display. And then all we gotta do here is we load up that DOCX quote available to us. And once the document is loaded, we can actually go ahead and just apply the JSON that we prefetched here. And if I switch over to my sample here, as you can see, let's just go ahead and refresh and show you how instantaneous it is when it comes to boom. And as you saw, just for a brief second, it was an empty kind of placeholder, and then placeholders got filled in. And as we can see here, now the information is here, pre-filled correctly, the styles are preserved, and we have all our information correctly entered. Now we can go ahead and take this a step further, and we can actually go ahead and switch over to the Forms tab right over here. And inside of the Forms tab, we can go ahead and place a text field, and we can go ahead and capture a title and a date as well. And as you notice here, we have a couple configuration options where we can make the fields read-only required. We can also pre-fill them from some of the information we have from the database as well. And maybe I want to go ahead and place a signature block right here for someone to go ahead and sign for it. Now I can apply fields, and as we can see, we have a legible PDF form that now can be sent out and filled out. So if I'm okay with all the different values inside of this quote, I can go ahead and click on the signature and just draw my signature right here. Go ahead and create it. I can also fill out my name and my title and place a date of it, so December 7th. This web viewer component, by the way, not only offers template generation, but offers a variety of different features like annotation, collaboration, digital signature support, form building, form filling in, different page manipulation workflows where we can rotate, edit the documents, as well as embed it in a number of different applications environments. So you can grab this web viewer component and you can place it into any part of your workflow, whether you have a vanilla JavaScript application or you have a React Angular Vue application, or you want to embed it inside of your Salesforce. So inside of Salesforce, we can embed the component as available through the page editor, where you can simply drag and drop it. You can also do it in other low-code platforms like Mendex, Appian, and a number of others like SharePoint. And again, the data source, the templates can virtually be from anywhere. So for example, our data can come from all the different databases that I have mentioned, as well as the templates can be generated in any word processor and can be edited. One thing that I did promise to show you as part of this demo is how we're going to go ahead and handle some of the larger table values. So let's go ahead and really max out. So now let's go ahead and see how it's going to look with table row maxed out, that is going to overflow to the second page. So I entered all the new rows for oranges here, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a refresh. And as you previously saw on the screen, it went ahead and filled in those items. And not only that, it correctly preserved the styles, but also created a new subheading on a different page with all the different items entered. All right, I really hope you enjoyed this Developer Week presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them. Thank you.